accused of sexually abusing a 12-year-old girl in the 1960s. A lawsuit has been filed in New York, alleging the singer plied the child with drink and drugs over a 6-week period. Dylan's representative has denied the claims. A child is in a critical condition and 5 others have been hurt after they were hit by a car as they left their school holiday camp. The crash happened in the grounds of Ardingly College in West Sussex yesterday. There are plans to bring in a new minimum income guarantee to help tackle poverty in Scotland. People are being asked to give their views on the scheme to provide a sum which would ensure everyone had enough money to live with financial security. England's opening match of this year's Men's 2020 World Cup will be against the West Indies. Organisers have announced the sides will meet in October in Dubai. In the city, the FTSE 100 will reopen at 71.53 after closing down 63 points yesterday. The pound buys $1.38 and €1.17. And the weather rather cloudy for many, with some light rain in places, some sunny spells in northeastern areas, as well as the far south and southwest. Breezy again, a high of 22 degrees. From Bird's Newsroom, I'm Simon Conway.
For blowing away the cobwebs, for putting some fresh air into our lungs, for some time in the daylight and some in the spotlight. For the people we love, for the people we've lost, for the 1 in 2 of us who will get cancer. We will race for life together again. We're finally back. Got more blood jobs to raise money for life-saving cancer research. Search Raise for Life and sign up now in partnership with Tesco.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Morning, 3 minutes after 7 on Tuesday, August the 17th. Chaos in Kabul. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden seems to unite the United States in utter condemnation. It's not his fault, it's actually the Afghans' fault. That's the message to send to the country, isn't it? As its translators scramble and try and hide away, and 12-year-old girls are dragged off and raped as so-called child brides. Meanwhile, in Europe, Boris Johnson and the French President Macron are talking about some kind of deal, possibly led by the French President.
Taliban victory will lead to people smugglers exploiting the huge number of Afghans escaping to Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron has warned. I'm Peter Allen, reporting for LBC in Paris.
Where's the hospital where NHS bosses back in the UK have a casualty plan in case it collapses because it was made out of insufficient or inferior material? You did hear that correctly. Stay tuned, you'll find out in this first hour. Geronimo the alpaca, I know I've said this many times, but is it D-Day later today?
There's a legal lifeline for condemned alpaca Geronimo, but his owner says he could still be killed today. MLBC's Rachel Venables with the details.
And if you need your heart lifted, I'm going to tell you the story, the incredible story of Woody O'Rourke and the great team down at Brentford Football Club. Woody is an 8-year-old boy who has Down syndrome and non-verbal. He can only communicate through sign language. When Brentford beat Arsenal on Friday in an extraordinary turnaround, the manager went racing up to the lad, as did some of the players. It warms your heart, and God knows you need it. So credit to Brentford boss, and we'll tell you, by the way, how to watch the video if you've not seen it. Full credit to Brentford boss Thomas Frank.
Hi Woody, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me, to us, to Brentford, that you support us and cheer us on.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 60 60 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
And if that doesn't get close to bringing a tear to your eye when you see that video, and I'll give you details of how you can see it in just a moment, you would need a heart made of stone or a glass eye not to shed a tear at that. And we all say, let's hope Brentford have a great season. That manager and those lads deserve it, the way they've looked after that 8-year-old boy. We're speaking with his mum later. Let's get to front page news. Both sides of the Atlantic, and indeed I'll be sharing, obviously, not just the British headlines, but the US ones with you as well. And just before we get the full background of President Biden, I have to say that going up and down the news networks last night, it's extraordinary. President Joe Biden seems to have managed to unite the broadcast of the United States, both Fox and CNN, in, I have to say, if not outright derision, criticism. If you missed what the president said, catch up now. LBC's Matthew Thompson in the studio with me. Matt.
Well, Nick, as the fallout from the extraordinary collapse of Afghanistan continues, the US President Joe Biden finally returned from his holiday at Camp David to Washington, where he gave a speech robustly defending his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan and actually, Nick, laying the blame squarely at the feet of the Afghan leadership.
If Afghanistan is unable to mount any real resistance to the Taliban now, there is no chance that 1 year, 1 more year, 5 more years, or 20 more years, the U.S. military boots on the ground would have made any difference.
But the question, as you rightly say, Nick, being asked on news networks around the world is that truly a fair reflection of the events of the last few weeks? Certainly not according to Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton.
He spent a lot of his time blaming other people again, and I don't think that's going to be reassuring to the American public or to our friends and allies around the world who find themselves under challenges, whether it be Israel or Taiwan or many others.
The verdicts of America's biggest newspapers, Nick, are plain. The Biden administration was right to bring the war to a close, yet there was no need for it to end in such chaos, says the New York Times. It says the calamity cannot be laid solely at Biden's feet, but the result shouldn't have been such a surprise. The Washington Post, even less sparing in its criticism. The debacle in Afghanistan is the worst kind, it says, avoidable. The president could have listened to the many seasoned hands inside and outside his own administration who advised him that there were alternatives to precipitous, unconditional withdrawal. Mr. Biden didn't listen. Other papers, slightly more forgiving, Nick. The LA Times says the war in Afghanistan has been ruinously costly. Biden made the difficult but correct decision not to prolong this quagmire any further. But also, Nick, with much focus rightly on the United States, let's not forget the British role, or perhaps even the lack of it. Labour has accused the British government of a lack of foreign policy. There are those who say that, well, once policy was set in Washington, there wasn't a huge amount Britain alone could have done, but a number of prominent Conservatives disagreed. Tom Tugendhat, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, said Britain suffers from an inability to operate independently of the US. His colleague, Johnny Mercer MP, agreed. And both Boris Johnson and Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab were on holiday at the same time over the weekend, Nick, as Afghanistan collapsed. And Raab in particular has been accused of going AWOL. And whilst the battle for Afghanistan may be lost, there's still much to do in terms of evacuating British nationals. And faced with the magnitude of that task, well, the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace broke down on your programme yesterday.
Our men and women of our armed forces are risking their lives in doing that, but that is the right thing to do. They've risked their lives the last 20 years. At the very least, our obligation has to be is for many of these people through the pipeline as possible. But I think I also said it's a really deep part of the ground for me. Some people won't get back. Some people won't get back, and we will have to do our best in third countries to process those people.
Why do you feel it so personally, Mr. Wallace?
Because I'm just told, because it's sad, the West has done what it's done. We have to do our very best to get people out and stand by our obligations.
We talk about a lack of leadership, Nick. If you want an example of British leadership, look no further than Laurie Bristow, our ambassador to Afghanistan, who is refusing to leave whilst personally processing visas for Afghans who've served British forces. Many of his counterparts for other Western nations are long gone.
Matthew Thompson reporting. We'll continue with the UK political scene with Sir Ed Davey, leader of the Lib Dems, in just a moment. But let's go to the US and pick up on how that presidential address yesterday afternoon for their time went. It was around 9 p.m. here in London. Dr. Peter Laufer is an American journalist, broadcaster, author and documentary filmmaker. He's chair in journalism at the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication, and I'm proud and pleased to say I've known him for a number of years. Okay, Peter, as the dust settles, what will the op-eds be saying? We touched on it briefly, and how do you think President Biden looks this morning to Americans? Morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good evening to you from here in California, Nick. The reality is that what's being called optics these days are terrible, of course. That picture that's replayed of the cargo plane taking off with people trying to somehow hold on to the exterior of it. But long term, it seems that not just me, but observers throughout
back to the election, the campaigning for the president post, and Joe Biden made a lot of the fact that he had his foreign policy credentials, 36 years in the Senate, 8 as Barack Obama's vice president. Look, we appreciate the decision might be right, but if you'll pardon the word here, it's the execution that looks so grossly inept. Peter?
There is no question, Nick, that the ways and means seem, at least as we are in so-called real time analyzing it, suspect at best in terms of preparation. The end result undoubtedly is correct, but there is no way to rationalize the chaos that exists currently and the trauma that is being caused by this. Sudden is the only word for it, exit.
Let me ask you this lastly, Peter. As America wakes up and they turn on their TVs and they gather in the coffee shops and the breakfast bars from New Orleans to New York and across the whole of the country, is there any sense of guilt of what's been left for the folk in Afghanistan?
I don't think guilt is the right word, Nick. Of course, I can't speak for 300 plus million Americans, but there is a sense of relief that this endless war, seemingly endless war, that has moved not one iota in 20 years, is over. That this, what should have been a police action to take out Osama bin Laden and his compatriots, is over because it should not have been a so-called democracy-building effort in a place where we have no business past taking out the criminals.
Best to you and your family, Peter. Thank you, Dr. Peter Laffer's Chair in Journalism at the University of Oregon School of Journalism and Communication. Let's come back to the British side, bring into the conversation leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey. Now, of course, a day or so this will be examined or scrutinised in Parliament. What specifically do you think you, as the leader of the Lib Dems, and your colleagues said? What will you be looking to drill down to? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. We want to ask the Prime Minister a number of questions. First of all, what was he and the British government saying to both President Trump and President Biden about this proposal to withdraw from Afghanistan, both the actual decision and how it was being planned? And we want to ask him about the planning that the British government was making for all circumstances to make sure that British people, our servicemen, our diplomats, and all the people who we're obliged to help, rightly, the interpreters and so on, how they were planning to secure their safety. Because while it's absolutely clear that the big decisions were made in the White House by Trump and Biden, and they need to look at themselves about whether they made the right decisions, the British government clearly has gone along with this and doesn't look as it's been well prepared. So very difficult decisions. I absolutely accept that, Nick. But the Prime Minister has to answer questions tomorrow in the House of Commons.
I'm sure you will now have watched President Biden's address last night. What do you take from him, Sir Ed?
Well, he did campaign for this, and no one should be surprised in a way that he took this decision.
It's the manner of the decision, though, Ed, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, it is.
One doesn't question this. It's the execution, as I said earlier.
But I think it's worse than that, actually, Nick. Because I think the analysis that he made was fundamentally wrong. The Afghan army has been fighting this war for the last 5 years with the support of the Americans, British and coalition forces. We have made huge sacrifices, the Americans made huge sacrifices, but the worst years for us in terms of casualties were between 2006 and 2013. There were huge sacrifices made then by British men and women and Americans and others. But since 2016, for the last 5 years, every life that's lost is tragic, but we've only seen one fatality in those 5 years from the British side, and quite a relatively small number from the American side. The people who've been taking the casualties have been the Afghans. The Afghan army has been fighting this war. And for President Biden to say that they weren't prepared to fight goes against all the evidence. They needed support, this it did. American air support, British training support, and so on. But that was coming at a much, much less cost in terms of lives, in terms of money. And what were we getting for that? British people, listening to your programme, could know that Afghanistan was not a training ground for international terrorists. That's why we went in. Revolution Enduring Freedom back in 2001, which I voted for. And back then, we were told that we need to prevent Al-Qaeda having a training ground. Now we see ISIS, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, and Al-Qaeda. And I really fear for our national security because of the decision. I fear for American national security. I think the analysis of President Biden has been wrong. I'm trying to persuade Joe Biden to listen to the many experts in the military and the security services who were warning this would end in disaster.
Okay, we'll leave it there. The line clicked a bit at the end, but I'm grateful a few times. Ed Davey, thank you, leader of the Lib Dems, appearing here on LBC. We'll get into your reactions on that, and also sharing with you the area of the country where a mass casualty plan is in place because hospitals made out of a lightweight concrete could collapse. 7:17 LBC News headlines now. Simon Conway.
Joe Biden says he stands squarely behind his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan and has blamed local forces for not fighting the Taliban, who've now taken over. Downing Street says Boris Johnson will announce a bespoke resettlement scheme for vulnerable Afghans in the coming days. Bob Dylan has been accused of sexually abusing a 12-year-old girl in the 1960s. The weather cloudy for many with some rain in places, a high of 22 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. On the Underground, the Central Line can't run between Liverpool Street and White City because of an investigation. And then there are severe delays on the rest of the line. Minor delays on the Metropolitan and Piccadilly lines, but that's because of a shortage of trains. Only one Woolwich ferry can run. That's because of an ongoing technical problem, so do expect extra traffic in the Blackwall Tunnel. And on the roads in Hounslow, the traffic lights on the A4 Great West Road at Sutton Lane aren't working eastbound after they were damaged in an accident.
This is LBC.
When you own a small business, whether you're an IT consultant or selling flowers, your tech is your lifeline. Oh no!
Sorry, we lost you. You there?
Great. But with Direct Line Business Tech Essentials, you can get your stolen or damaged tech replaced in 24 hours from claim approval. Whether it's laptops, phones, or tablets, we're on it. Search Direct Line Business Insurance. Direct Line.
Covering claim limits apply Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. except bank holidays. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
Got a big home to-do list? Trusted Trader can help. Local tradespeople reviewed and recommended. You can always trust a trader.
I finally found an easy way to get a GP appointment when I need one. With the Livy app, I can see a GP by video on the same day, even at the weekend. The GPs are so friendly, and if I need a prescription, it's sent to my local pharmacy really quickly. Livy makes seeing a doctor simple, so I can spend more time with these little rascals.
Download the Livy app now. That's L-I-V-I. Appointments cost £29, including prescriptions, sick notes and referrals.
How do you make the perfect electric car from scratch? First, take the base ingredients of a Jaguar: power, luxury, agility, and add cutting-edge battery innovation. Then garnish with 78 international awards. The extraordinary all-electric Jaguar I-Pace, built to deliver the most dynamic driving experience, and now positioned to offer the most efficient business benefits. From £495 a month plus VAT on Jaguar Business Contract Hire. Available for immediate delivery. Search Jaguar I-Pace to book an extended test drive now. Initial rental £4,455 plus VAT at 20%. 48-month term, 8,000 miles per annum. Excess mileage and return conditions apply. Offer ends 30th of September. Selected I-Pace models and participating retailers only. Visit jaguar.co.uk.
Take a handful of friends, throw in succulent pork slices and extra crispy crackling. Serve on a bed of noodles, mint and oh so crisp salad. Douse in a tangy soy chili and lime glaze. Add a sprinkling of in-jokes, and there you have it. My crispy pork noodles recipe.
Come together and enjoy our Tesco finest pork loin joint. Hand-scored for extra crispy crackling. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco. Available in selected larger stores, excludes NI.
We've all had those moments we tell ourselves, it's just nothing. My tummy is just a bit uncomfortable.
It's just the runs.
It just doesn't feel right.
Just a bit of blood. That's new.
If you've had discomfort or diarrhea for 3 weeks or more, or seen blood in your pee, even just once, it could be a sign of cancer. It's probably nothing serious, but finding cancer early makes it more treatable. Your NHS wants to see you. Just contact your GP practice.
Would your dog like peace of mind from Pets in a Pickle Pet Insurance? That's a yes from him. Visit petsinnapickle.co.uk. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
7:22, quickly through the front pages of the newspapers. They obviously still reflect the situation that we see in Afghanistan, and some pick up on the address last night from President Biden. For the Daily Mail, Biden, it's Afghans' own fault. The Sun call him Joke Biden, sharing that he was surprised by the rout, and there's a picture of him taken at Camp David, sitting on his own, looking at a bank of monitors. Chaos in Kabul as thousands struggle to flee the Taliban. It's the picture, it's the front page of The Guardian with a picture of those people racing alongside their United States Air Force carrier. Desperate is the Daily Mirror. They have a picture inside that massive belly of that aircraft where people are just standing, and I think it was about 400 plus somebody managed to get in, and the pilot just took off with them. Sadly, as you will already know, some people clinging to the side of the aircraft, and unsurprisingly able not to make it. Biden defends America's flight as the front page of the Telegraph. They pick up aspects of the speech. The flight from hell, there's the same picture on the front page of the Metro. No Way Out is the picture of I, with people on the front page of the I, with people trying to climb into the airport. Race to escape Kabul carnage. There's that photo again of that aircraft lumbering down. That's the front page of the Times. It's on the front page of the Express. PM sends extra paras in race against time. And lastly, the Financial Times. Chaos engulfs Kabul airport amid panic to flee Taliban rule. Just a couple of the front pages of American newspapers, so you know how they're reacting to their presidential address, as effectively it was last night. They also have Biden defends exit on the front page of the USA Today. Gut-wrenching scenes in Afghanistan amid chaos. You may recall that was an expression that the president used. Facing Afghan chaos, Biden defends exit is the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Chaos engulfs Afghan withdrawal. As we were hearing, the media, President Biden has united the United States, the media, to both arms of it, really. There seems to be pretty widespread condemnation. Let's come back to the UK. 7:23. Sean in Oakhampton. Now, you served over there, is that correct, Sean? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Good morning, viewers. I didn't live in Afghanistan, Nick, but I did tours of duty during the 80s.
Right.
And what President Biden doesn't understand is it's a pretty tough 6-month tour wherever you go on active service.
Right.
It's very stressful. So when you come back from Afghanistan, they're ready for a leave, they're ready for a break. The Afghani army have never been off tour. They've been on it for 20 years.
Right.
They are battle weary. We should have tactically withdrawn. Many service personnel on with the Afghani army. They're our comrades and colleagues in arms. And we've left them. It was not done appropriately, Nick. You expect that from a guy in a suit in America. It was absolutely amateurish what he's done.
Isn't there an argument that, seeing as we still have British, and indeed there are US military personnel in Germany, isn't there an argument you keep a core, a very small core, for at least another 5 years?
You have to keep it going. We've been in Cyprus for God knows how long with the United Nations peacekeeping force. Do you remember the Turkish and the Greek Cypriots? We kept
Yes,
them
of
for
course.
years.
Yes, of
We
course.
stayed there. What we should have done is kept that training teams behind, kept tactical support, airstrikes if necessary, and protected the places of learning for these young girls to go and keep on their degrees at Kabul University. I've got agreement in place that we're not going anywhere until safety zones are met.
Good hearing your voice again, Sean. Thank you. I recognise you now. Of course, we've spoken a number of occasions. You've moved location. That's why I didn't get you straight away. And we'll have more of this in a moment. Nigel will be the next caller. But with this going on, Afghanistan, the chaos in Kabul, we haven't even mentioned coronavirus and all the other issues. Shall we celebrate an extraordinary piece of good news? Now, I need to say that I know that football teams, many football teams, work very, very hard to help people in their community, sometimes young boys and young girls who are slightly disadvantaged. I understand it is not unique for Brentford, but I want to hail the great work for Brentford, not least because they had such a stunning victory on Friday night when they beat Arsenal 2-0. But the way the manager and some of the players reacted to young, and you're going to hear from his mum in a moment, young Woody O'Rourke. Now, you can see the original video on lbc.co.uk. You must have a glass eye if it doesn't bring a tear to your eye, I tell you, because it is extraordinary. So check that out on lbc.co.uk. And this really revolves around the Brentford manager, Thomas Frank, and a video message. You'll see it in that video. They're pictured celebrating following that win over Arsenal.
Hi, Woody. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me, to us, to Brentford, that you support us and cheer us on. It was fantastic to see you on Friday night, and we will do everything we can to continue this journey together.
Honestly, it will lift your day, I think. And let's privileged to see that I say that I can speak now with his mum, Natalie O'Rourke. Good morning. May I call you Natalie? Good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, good morning.
Hello, Natalie. Tell us all you can about young Woody. He's a bit of a star. I saw him on the video last night.
Yeah, so Woody is 8 years old and he's got Down syndrome. So just if people don't know what that means, it just means that he's got an extra chromosome, which makes his life slightly more challenging. But I do say that Woody has got 2 extra chromosomes because one of them is a B chromosome, because he's definitely a B.
B as in Brentford, this is, of course.
Yeah.
Now, was it you that loved Brentford, or his dad, or your dad?
No, basically Woody took an interest in football about 4 years ago, and I'm originally from Birmingham.
Right.
So my best friend and I, we had to make a decision on Woody's behalf because Woody's non-verbal. So we thought, well, let's support a local team and a team that we can actually afford to go and watch.
Yes.
So we chose Brentford, and it literally changed his life. From the moment that we went to the club, we were just embraced by the club, and it's been like that ever since for the last 4 years. It's literally been life-changing for Woody.
Now, this video that my listeners can see on lbc.co.uk has been viewed nearly 7 million times. Is Woody aware of this now? Is he able to realise the sort of star he's become?
No, he's not. Woody just lives in the moment. He absolutely adores Thomas Frank. He just thinks Thomas Frank is the best person in the whole world. And the fact that Thomas acknowledged him on Friday, and I was obviously standing behind Woody, and it honestly looked like Thomas was just as pleased to see Woody as Woody was to see Thomas. And they just shared that passionate moment of the win. And they didn't need any words between them because, their body language just said it all.